Sodor, the Fat Controller, was talking to Jim outside the works. "Eee, Jim, how are you feeling?" "Better than ever. I've never felt so good in my life, sir." "Well, but before you go home, I think it's worth you doing some test runs to make sure everything's working as it should. Would you like to play with some trucks, Jim?" "Oh yes, sir. I'd be glad to stretch my wheels." Once Jim was oiled and steam pressure was up, he set off to the shunting yards. "Ouch, ouch, ouch," said the trucks as Jim shunted them. Then Gordon arrived to collect his coaches for the express. "Goodness me, has Sir Topham Hatt really replaced a museum piece with another? You little engine make Edward look possibly brand new." "Oh, be quiet. At least my class can do more than just pull silly express coaches." "Well, I never." Gordon was taken aback. He was not used to being spoken to like that by such a little engine. I remember a story my driver told to me about an engine that was rude, and this is what happened to him. So this is the story that Jim told. In a small dark shed on a very short branch line, which is near a very quiet town with a very good bus service, good local road connections, hardly seems worth running a railway service. Anyway, lives Ted, an old engine, who is absolutely fed up of being woken up at such an unsociable hour every morning by his driver and fireman, who would both much rather have a decent engine than an old rust bucket like Ted. They lit his fire and oiled his motion, though sometimes he wished they would be late so he could have a longer sleep. Once his driver and fireman had made a cup of tea, the first of many that day, Ted would move over to the sidings to collect his coaches, or chicken sheds as he called them. They were old four-wheeled coaches which were falling apart. They would much rather be nice bungalows than have passengers banging their doors with no respect whatsoever for them. After his driver and fireman had yet another cup of tea and a chocolate biscuit, the guard would tell them to get a move on, or they would be late for the intercity service at the slightly bigger station down the line. So they set off down the line, or up the line depending on where you're standing. Ted hated the smell of the countryside, especially when the farmer had been muck spreading. As Ted was the only engine on the line, he did sometimes have a slightly pompous personality. Do hurry up, said the coaches. "Oh, be quiet, you old coaches, or I'll shunt you to the scrapyard, where you're long overdue." At the slightly bigger station, fast trains flashed by on the main line. "Show-offs," said Ted. Later on, Ted was sleeping in the bay platform. He was awoken by two train spotters that were taking his name and number. "Be off with you," hissed Ted. "Let me sleep in peace." As Ted's driver and fireman were having a relaxing cup of tea, an intercity HST pulled up on the opposite platform. "How's the Chicken Shed Express?" said the HST. "You can have them if you want." "Oh, I'd rather have my nice air-conditioned coaches," said the HST. "I'd rather go back to my shed than pull your Fat Cat Express. Tell your passengers to hurry up," said Ted angrily. "Seems someone's in a slightly bad mood. I'm fed up with these two drinking tea all day and having to be coupled up to these out-of-date, clapped-out wooden bungalows on wheels. You know, in the big city, people would call your coaches retro items." The HST receives the guard's right-of-way and pulls out of the station. Retro items, thought Ted, with a glint in his smoke box. Later that day, Ted was breaking the speed limit down his branch line, and also dreaming of a new padlock for his shed, so he would not get disturbed anymore. After all, he was feeling quite pleased with himself, as he'd met a gentleman at the station who was looking to build a beach hut for the summer, and Ted, being Ted, struck up a deal with the gentleman. As Ted backed down into his shed, he looked over at his smart new coaches, as his old coaches are now serving a most useful role as beach huts. Ted settled down to sleep, but within a few weeks his line would be closed and turned into a bypass. Ted would be sent to a scrapyard, where he would slowly rust away in peace.